Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Brea. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start in 88, where Josh is with, it's like, hey, lady, this is kind of crazy to me. I mean, grandma. So, obviously, it's like Isaiah's here, so she wants to see Isaiah, because I guess even so, it's interesting because whatever Isaiah's role in everything is, I'm curious, does Silas know but not his daughter? I wonder, is that the possibility? Or could it be a situation of, because Silas specifically didn't want him to go, and she's a lot more okay with everything playing out the way it needs to than he was. So that's where I'm like, she must be in the dark about a lot of, like, he might know more about Isaiah, or rather Gavin's circumstances, than she does, whatever role he's supposed to play in everything that is to come. So the moment she found out, like, well, Isaiah's here, I gotta go see him, it's like, well, you can't. We've already been through this before with your dad. It's like, well, probably didn't tell you this, but your dad tried to, stop Isaiah from coming to 88, which kind of wiped me out from existence. So, like, my great-grandfather kind of tried to inadvertently, not even inadvertently, just straight up kill me and my sister in the process by doing that. And obviously she doesn't want to do that, knowing, like, right, it does work out in the end, but it still sucks. Like, knowing that that's the sad thing about the timey-wimey stuff, because it's like, right, this is meant to be because it's already happened. And so for her, it's like, right, like, that must mean I never fought. But I think her and Gavin will meet again. Like, obviously, he's going to be like, well, he's going to be Gavin. He's not going to be her mom, but, and that's the heartbreaking thing of, like, she wanted to see him one last time, and hearing his last name is Harris, she knew exactly who, because at first she was like, oh yeah, these are my colleagues. I was like, colleagues? I was like, wait, what? But I was like, oh right, I'm forgetting. Like, she's the only one connected to Lazarus, who is from, who's in this time period. So I was like, right, the Dr. Clark, like, the persona she is here, like, her life here, these are colleagues from, like, probably work or whatever here, that's like she's getting to adopt. So it is interesting because she knew exactly, it's like, right, the serendipity of it all, where it's like, right, the couple that ended up adopting him ended up being people that she knew. And she's like, I'm happy just to play a small role in that, to be able to see him one last time. And once again, that so baffles me, like, why specifically Isaiah and Lily have amnesia? Because at first I was like, oh, maybe it's, maybe it's like, I mean, it could be like PTSD, kind of like the trauma of it all, like, being so overwhelming and made them, like, their minds just weren't ready to handle that, and it did that to them. But, like, once again, no one else time traveling had any memory issues. Like, Josh and Riley have time traveled twice now, and it hasn't affected their memory. So, because even she was like, wait, you don't remember? He's like, yeah, I don't remember anything for a couple days ago. So it's like, right, it's specifically the time travel that, like, screwed with his memory. Once again, it could just be like a trauma thing, like I said, trauma thing of just, like, suppressed memories, but I don't know. It just seems interesting that it's specifically them. Like, that feels like that's the only explanation, because no one else is having memory issues. And especially considering everything going on, that's an issue. If it was, I feel like if that was a more prominent, like, considering all the time traveling is going on, that'd be a more prominent issue that other people would be dealing with, So, either way, we found out, so it seems like I was on the right trail. They are from the future. They gave themselves wiggle room, I mean, at least for now, because they never specified when in the future they're from, but far enough to the point that time travel exists, and their world is in danger. So it is kind of like, I think, like similar to like a 4400 type of situation, or there's even the show The Crossing. Like, there's shows that have taken, like, have followed a similar pathing with this type of storyline. And so they're from a future where, like, the future's kind of, like, pretty bad, and they wanted to come back here. I guess 10,000 BC was, once again, the best place that they could work without, because any other place they set up would probably, at least that main hub of the Lazarus Project, would mean, like, probably drawing too much attention. That was my explanation. Like, that's most likely why they picked 10,000 BC, because it would have the least amount of ripple effect on the rest of the timeline. Maybe I don't know if they can really. I would assume and inside that tower there is some means of monitoring the timeline. Whether it's necessarily like this full space-time continuum of it all, but they have enough of an idea for her to go back to 88 because they were already working on time travel stuff like even back then. So probably taking and applying what she knows from super future knowledge. Because once again, we have no idea when exactly they're from, that now she can probably apply that to 80, to stuff that they're working on in 88, just to help with the whole sinkhole thing. Because it is a thing of, hey, we try to use time travel to save our time, and it went wackadoo. Like, things are super, like, going wrong. Like, the sinkholes and the time portals are, like, a byproduct of us screwing with time. And so, So they're trying to correct that now. How they'll go about that, how you go about closing all of those, because it feels like it might be rapidly like spreading well beyond your control. Like you might, who knows if you'd even be able to possibly rein all this back in, but we'll have to wait and see on that front where things kind of go. Because in next episode they're going to meet up, meet up with Franklin and try to figure out how to handle all this, how they stop the tidal waves and all that. But she has some idea of where to really start with all that. So there's that side of things. And obviously in the aftermath of last episode, it's like, cool, we have to go after those rocks. We're going to sneak in, and that's going to be delivering the rocks is going to be obviously their way into the tower. But some snafus come along the way because part of the team ends up splitting off. Levi, Lucas, and Scott go to rescue the other captives because they're about to be transported to somewhere much worse than these mines, while Izzy, Eve, Gavin, and Sam are going to go after the rocks, which each group has their respective issues. Let's start off with Lucas and Scott. I thought was kind of neat, considering like the very antagonistic relationship. I mean, considering like Lucas was very antagonistic last season in general, for them to kind of bond as they are now, like, it's like now Josh isn't your only like true buddy down here. Even never would have thought so all the times he threatened you last season, but you and Lucas are becoming good buddies because it's like, right, he knows what it's like to have lost someone that you care about. He's like, yeah, I mean, the fact that you've been lying to me for a couple days, but he's like, I can get over that because I know like you're upset about losing Aldrich. Because, he understands that better than anyone because he's lost someone down here, his mom, And especially considering their complicated relationship. Yeah, they were in a better place, but there was still so much time, like, wasted, them being them not being close and them being so distant. And now when they got so close again, just for that time to be taken away from them. So ultimately, we find out about Scott's circumstances, why he smoking weed is his weed is used for it. I mean, at least one of its purposes is to help people with anxiety. His is an anxiety brought about because he had brought up the fact is, he's like, I failed again. And Lucas was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it doesn't matter. He finally opens up about it. His brother died, when he was like 13, and he froze. And so it's like, right, kind of tying that back into certain aspects of Scott's character of like when the going gets tough, like Scott ended up freezing a lot, especially last season. And now we see like that there's a deep seated root to that. It's an anxiety of like when people are in danger and the going gets tough, like his anxiety kicks in and he freezes and he feels like, I can't help anyone. And he beats himself up so much about it. And it's giving him this kind of crippling anxiety, and weed is how he's dealing with it. And now he's out and he doesn't know what to do. But Lucas is like, right, I'm sorry about what happened to your brother, but you can do something now. You don't need that. When the time came, he helped. He burned down like the boat that they were going to take the prisoners on, ran for their lives. Luckily, Levi got to Para's village and they were able to show up in time to help. It's like, cool, we're alive, we're not dead. This is awesome, And it's like, yeah. And even at the end, Scott throwing away his vape pen because he's like, I don't need it anymore. Which might actually lean into why Aldrich chose Scott out of anybody, because maybe she knew about his past and his wanting to be better. Like that's why he went with Aldrich, because he saw this as an opportunity to protect everyone, to make up for the past in some shape or form. Because especially because he feels like, right, I I've had multiple instances where I froze down here, so this was my opportunity to like help everyone that I care about, you know, kind of making up for the past in some shape or form. But part of me almost, because the way Aldrich talked about it, especially because she is from the future, it does seem like she probably knows what Scott's future is, and I think that might lean into it too, that maybe she knows like he is something significant, you know, his future is something significant, and she just inadvertently ends up playing a role in molding and pushing him to become who he eventually becomes. The way, I can't remember if it was Scott who said that, or was it like Aldrich that said something to him, or it's almost implying like she knows what his future is. I mean, she probably knows everyone's future, which I never even thought about. It's like, right, they're all from the future, so Aldrich she was in present day probably just like Gavin's mom was in 88. It's like they were probably trying to attack the same issue from different fronts. To be fair, like Aldrich seems like she was on the outs with the people in the tower, so she might not be in good standing with, I mean, God, for all we know, like Silas might not be in good standing with the people in the tower either, especially like his daughter and his son-in-law. I don't know what their relationship and that dynamic is like, but Aldrich couldn't just like stroll into the tower like she wanted to, so she does seem like she's on the outs of everyone there. Maybe she had a different perspective on it than the others. I don't know. And truth be told, I guess, well, we'll have to wait to hear from other characters to get their perspectives on Aldrich, because with her gone now, we'll never get a conclusive answer from her. So, either way, that sets up some really interesting stuff on that front. But obviously, the whole Harris family drama, because it's like, yes, now Izzy knows, and, you know, Gavin's like, oh, you shouldn't have told her. It's like, well, kind of didn't have any choice. I didn't want to keep lying to her. And because especially Eve hasn't had the chance to tell Gavin. It's like, I had no choice to tell her because she thought her leg, she blames herself and her leg situation for us getting divorced. And it's like, there's so much more at play here. There were, you know, there was so much more there, you know, and Izzy kind of holding that guilt. It's like, right. And Gavin wants, you know, things to work out with Eve, but it's also like, she's not, you know, she talked to Ty about it. She's like, yeah, I'm kind of torn between these two, you know. It's like, yes, she never thought she would have seen Gavin again, and like, now we're here, but it's also like, yeah, but she fell in love with Levi, but the problem is that Gavin is now more the Gavin he was beforehand, especially now that you know, like, right, all the drinking, all that stuff. It's like, right, he wasn't crazy, that those visions weren't just visions, they were memories. So it's all complicated. And now, like, Izzy, I mean, once again, Josh was in his feelings about it, understandably so, and so does Izzy. To be fair, like, Josh was... Here's a lot more, obviously, like, had bigger issues with their dad than Izzy does. So for her, she's like sticking up for the dad, like, right, he made some mistakes, sure, but he's doing his best to kind of make up for it, so shouldn't that count? And Eve is ultimately going to have to make a choice, and it's, I don't know. It's like, the family dynamic isn't just one way. Like, it's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. But the fact is, if she wanted to be with Levi, they could still make that work. It's like, that won't change our family dynamic. But for Izzy, it's like, and probably for Josh, it's like, no, it would. Like, our family's been one way for so long, and you want to kind of like uproot that and change it. I mean, to be fair, it's been changed for a while. Just you and Josh weren't aware of it, and neither was Gavin. So, I don't know. It's going to be complicated. Especially because I think it struck something with Gavin when he was watching like both Izzy and Eve in danger, and it probably scared the crap out of him because like, oh my god, like I could have lost both of them. And luckily, Sam and Levi had saved Izzy and Eve respectively. I thought that would have struck something with him because it's like, I mean, it doesn't, like, he knows, like, right, he does love her. The fact is that Levi came in swooping in like a hero to save the day, to save her specifically. It's like, and the way he's like, are you okay? And the way he's holding on to her, it's like, there's no doubt in probably Gavin's mind, like, oh, he loves her, but it's like, no, I love her too. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to, because I was almost wondering if he was going to use this as an opportunity, like, right, I see how much you and Levi love each other and it sucks, but I'm going to give you your space to do what you need to do. But he's like, right, I'm not going to force you to make a decision right now, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to get our family back together. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you back. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out, because that's super complicated. Ooh, but that's not the only relationship drama that's hitting the scene as we find out. Well, Para, we find out more about Para's husband. And she was like, yeah, he died. I was like, and the fact that she didn't want to talk about it, I was like, oh, there must be some complications behind that. Well, we find out her husband's not actually like dead. He's dead to her. Or maybe it's more so like a thing of, hey, he was exiled and I thought he was dead. Maybe she didn't know he became the leader of the exiles. But yeah, head of the exiles is her hubby. And you're like, wow, he's still alive. And that's complicated when new person in your life is there too. So that's all kinds of complicated. I forgot what Para's explanation for why. Oh yeah, she found out he was up to something, and she in particular like reported him, and he ended up getting exiled for it. So I'm like, that's going to be issues because it's like, right, my own wife betrayed me. Like, you're like, man, complicated marriages all around. I mean, once again, we even know Ty's coming from a complicated circumstances of like, right, his marriage didn't work out because his wife felt like she never came first. So now it's like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But obviously, Para's like, yeah, the exiles aren't going to take this like laying down. Like, they're going to come after all of us. So they've got to prepare for that while the others go towards the tower, trying to get to 88, trying to get to Josh and Riley. So they did rescue everyone from the exiles, and they're all at Para's village right now. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I guess we're going to, I mean, like I said, she probably specified what it was, but I don't remember now off the top of my head what it was exactly that he did that got him exiled from the village. Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. But I am so curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.